Welcome to the Astrology Show with your host, Kelly Fox. Each week, Kelly will give you access to the current transits that are a valuable tool which provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has through our sun sign. Understanding the current planetary influences each week can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. Sometimes events in your life may seem completely random, but there is a pattern to the order of these events, one set in motion in part by you and in part by the planets and stars in the sky and their influence on your life here on Earth. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, if you're going to get that promotion, move to a new city, or fall in love, tune in to the Astrology Show for guidance. It can help you anticipate problems before they occur, give you tools to cope with changes, and help you look forward to the wonderful days ahead. Kelly Fox is a professional astrologer and internet pioneer who launched astrology.com, one of the first and most successful astrology websites. Today, her passion lies with her new site, theastrologer.com, where she brings a modern-day approach to an ancient wisdom. Please join Kelly each week to learn more about how the planets can align for you.
Hi there, welcome to the Astrology Show. I am your host and astrologer Kelly Fox, and I'm going to be talking about the planets in December. Can you believe we are looking at December, which starts Saturday, the very end of this week, and of course it will be December 1st. And I'm just looking to see what is going on in December, and there's always something. There is always something in astrology. But the good news is it looks like the hard stuff is behind us and we have a reprieve, at least for a few weeks. So December, what I'm going to do on tonight's show is talk about what's happening in December and what we can expect, and then go through a monthly forecast for each sign. And of course, as always, there's just so much to say. So I'm going to launch straight into it. So with December, and I'm doing this in chronological order because it's always the easiest. December starts with, let's see here on my calendar, communication planet Mercury retrograding back into Scorpio, where it will continue to be retrograde until December 6th. And then we also have love planet Venus finally moving back into Scorpio, but it's not retrograde. And if you remember that Venus, love planet Venus, first turned retrograde October 5th. And so it turned retrograde at 10 degrees Scorpio, nearly 11 degrees Scorpio actually. And then it continued its retrograde motion back into Libra. And so, the second half of November, we've had love planet Venus in Libra, where it really, really likes to be. And then on December 2nd, it moves back into Scorpio. Now, it first moved into Scorpio September. And that looks like September 9th. So it will, once again, from September 9th, move back into Scorpio December 2nd. So this has been an extra long Venus cycle because it's been retrograde. It moved into Scorpio September 9th, and then it turned retrograde October 5th, and then it moves back into back into Scorpio December 2nd, where it will be through, let me see here on my calendar, Venus will be in Scorpio all the way through January 7th. So that's the big news. Venus moving back into Scorpio. So all the things that were occurring at the beginning of fall throughout September will come about again, or anything connected will come about again throughout December. So it's sort of like we're going to be wrapping things up, especially with that Mercury finally not being retrograde as it has been in Scorpio. And so I'm going to go in chronological order, as I said. December 1st, we've got Mercury retrograding back into Scorpio. So Mercury turned retrograde in Sagittarius, and that was November 16th. And so it turned retrograde in Sagittarius at 13 degrees. And so it retrogrades back into Scorpio December 1st, and then it will turn direct in Scorpio December 6th. And then it will turn direct in Scorpio at 27 degrees of Scorpio on December 6th. So if you think about Mercury retrograde, which a lot of people surprisingly have heard of and know about, and it's certainly something that puts fear into a lot of people. I actually just had somebody then email me asking about a contract, and they were very concerned about signing a contract because Mercury's retrograde. But here's the thing: it's a re-signing of a contract. It's a redo of a contract. So it's pretty safe to say that anything that starts with an RE during a Mercury retrograde cycle is typically safe to do. And that's like re-signing, recycling, renovating, that type of thing. Anything that starts with an RE is pretty safe during a Mercury retrograde cycle. And so we are currently in a Mercury retrograde cycle. So it started, Mercury returned retrograde in Sagittarius November 16th, and then it will continue all the way through December 6th when it turns direct in Scorpio at 27 degrees. So what can we expect from the retrograde Mercury in Scorpio December 1st, which is, of course, is the end of the week, Saturday? So what's happening with Mercury retrograde in Scorpio? It's a very powerful influence. Mercury is planet of the mind, and when it's in Scorpio, it's very suspicious because of the retrograde. It's very suspicious, maybe paranoid, especially if you're a fixed sign or have any planets in fixed signs, and that's Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. The retrograde Mercury is paranoid, suspicious, thinking more of the dark than the light type of thing. Our reasoning ability might be thrown right out the door during this time of Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. But our perception, as always, with Mercury in Scorpio, our perceptions will be very keen, as always. But, the words that maybe come from our mouths at this time indicate a less than rational mind. So, we've got suspicions and insecurities, maybe some negative thinking. And this is not just because it's Mercury retrograde. This is Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, which makes it even more so than the usual Mercury retrograde or Mercury in Scorpio. So there can be some negative thinking due to some paranoia or suspicions, and that will colour the way we express ourselves. We could be very sarcastic or sharp-tongued, lashing out words like a whip on our unsuspecting audience. So just watch that in ourselves and, of course, in other people. We don't get caught up in a whole barrage of criticism or just, I think sharp-tongued is probably the best way to think about it. And so with this Mercury turning retrograde in Scorpio December 1st, conversations can get a bit heated with this influence, especially if there's some resistance from other people. So it's sort of like we'll tend to dig our heels in and research and investigate to prove a point well beyond any sort of reasonable behaviour, I guess is one way to say it. So it's definitely not a good time to debate a subject at the beginning of December with this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. And we should also be really cautious about embarking on any financial dealings. So that's just all the way through the 6th when Mercury is retrograde in Scorpio. But the best use of this type of energy is to spend it in self-reflection. So deal with your baggage, deal with your old baggage, examine your knee-jerk reactions, and maybe resolve issues that maybe have been haunting you for a long time. Even sort of work on or focus on any sort of compulsions or bad habits, because this energy is all about transforming things from the past. Typically negative thoughts or obsessions, but really with the energy of Venus in Scorpio as well, it's very good for, digging beneath the surface. And the key word really for these energies of Venus and Mercury in Scorpio is all about transformation. So transformation, rebirth are very good keywords for this type of energy. Now, love planet Venus is going to move into Scorpio, move back into Scorpio. That's December 2nd through January 7th. And as I said, it first moved into Scorpio during this cycle on September 9th, and then it turned retrograde on October 5th at nearly 11 degrees Scorpio. And then it continued backwards into Libra, and then it did turn direct at 25 degrees Libra on November 16th. Finally, now Venus is currently at this very moment in Libra, so it's quite happy at the moment because one of its favourite signs is Libra, the other is Taurus. So when it moves back into Scorpio on December 2nd, this energy is a little bit conflicted. Venus is a little bit uncomfortable with Scorpio, so there's a little bit of a mismatch here with these energies. But really, the energy is all about it's deep intimacy and intense passion. That's the energy of Venus in Scorpio. And, really with this energy all the way through January 7th, we won't have much patience for any sort of superficial connection or any type of casual dating. So if you're single, it's like, your thoughts might be around more of a long-term commitment rather than a casual hookup. And with Venus in Scorpio, this sort of energy, we prefer to relate to a few close friends or one significant other rather than a whole stable of friends and out there networking. It's like we want to get deep quickly. And if you are single and you do get involved with someone at this time during December, lots of those holiday parties, end-of-year parties. So this is, we might find ourselves wanting to give all of ourselves and, reveal the very core of our being. And with this Mercury in Scorpio as well, only for, I guess, the first half of December, though, it's very much about wanting to reveal our deepest, darkest thoughts and who we are and what we're about. So there's a lot of intensity of feeling when love planet Venus moves into Scorpio again on December 2nd. But, on the flip side, let's not scare everyone away by the intensity of our feelings and emotions. So that might lead some of us to sort of hold back and conceal our emotions because they're so big. They'll be like a tidal wave with this energy. And there might also be a fear of vulnerability that could get in the way of creating the depth that some of us will crave, especially if you're a water sign, and that's Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. So it's like when you take the risk of sharing, who you really are, rather than waiting for the other person to make the first move, then you're in control of opening the door to intimacy. And if you're in a partnership, it could be an excellent time to deepen your bond and strengthen your sense of trust with your partner. But, again, there's shadow sides to all energies, not just this one. But the shadow side of this energy is very much about, betrayal, jealousy, abandonment, obsession, those types of things. So that's the flip side or the shadow side of Venus in Scorpio. But really we're more willing to expose ourselves at this time by sharing our deepest thoughts and feelings with those that we really care about or want to get closer to. So this is a really, really great energy for regenerating your relationship and transforming old patterns. Then on December 6th, we have a new moon in Sagittarius. And that is the same day that Mercury turns direct. And so the new moon in Sagittarius, and of course Mercury turning direct the same day, it's sort of like will be a breath of fresh air. It's sort of like a burst of light, would be one way of thinking about it. And so with the new moon in Sagittarius, new moons are about new cycles or new beginnings. So this is the new monthly cycle. And, because it's in Sagittarius, it might awaken an inner need for any kind of stimulation, an adventure, an action. And so it's like we're craving excitement around the time of the Sagittarius new moon, especially if you are a fire sign, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. So it's like, we're looking or daydreaming about traveling to foreign lands or getting involved in foreign cultures or with foreigners in some way, or even sort of taking on some sort of philosophical conundrum, with this new moon in Sagittarius. It's very much about, it's new beginnings around even philosophical ideals or, if you're thinking about starting a new course or a class, this would be a wonderful time to do it with the new moon in Sagittarius. Now that's December 6th. And Mercury turns direct at that time as well. So it is a very, very good time for any sort of intellectual pursuits, especially of philosophical or spiritual or religious nature. And it's about diving into something deep, one topic very deeply, rather than spreading yourself too thin across a variety of things. Around the new moon in Sagittarius, December 6th, it's very much about focusing on one thing in depth and doing it really, really well. Now, of course, the flip side of this energy of the new moon in Sagittarius is all about boredom, because this will be an issue, because the energy of Sagittarius is very much about action, adventure, excitement, thrills, but the flip side of that is boredom. And so, we might find, or the mutable signs especially, and that's Gemini, Virgo, Sag, and Pisces, might find that, they're tapping their fingers restlessly, wondering, why are we here? What is this all about? That type of thing. So, it's a good thing that there are ways to distract ourselves, maybe a short road trip or trek into the wilderness. Excitement doesn't have to mean expense or far away, but just look at trying something that you haven't tried before beginning of December. Of course, legally and, within limits. But it's like Sagittarius is the thrill seeker of the zodiac. So this new moon in Sagittarius is very much about, I'll say cheap thrills, but that sounds negative, about thrills that can sort of satisfy some sort of urge, I guess, within us. But it's all about trying to avoid the doldrums or boredom or limitations, that sort of thing. Yeah, maybe a workshop, a seminar, a class will usually do the trick with this energy. So on that note, we're going to take a short break, so stay tuned.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organisation, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at OMTimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Hi, this is New Age Grammy winner Paul Avgerinos. Thanks for listening to OMTimes Radio, and please support my peaceful healing music with a purchase at iTunes, Amazon, or wherever you shop for fine music. Just put my name into the search engine, Paul Avgerinos. A, V like Victor, G like George, E-R-I-N-O-S. You can also visit me at roundskymusic.com. Thanks for listening, and I'm wishing you the brightest of blessings.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I am your host and astrologer Kelly Fox, talking about the planets in December and what we can expect. It's always good to know what's ahead, and it looks like there is a bit of a reprieve in December, although famous last words. Mercury will be retrograde until the 6th, and we have love planet Venus moving into Scorpio on the 2nd. And then just before the break, I was going to mention, Mercury will move back into Sagittarius, speaking of the retrograde. So the cycle of this current Mercury, which is retrograde, let me see here in my calendar, October 30th, Mercury first moved into Sagittarius during this cycle. And so it's continued in Sagittarius, and then November 16th, I turned retrograde in Sagittarius at 13 degrees. Coincidentally, the same day that love planet Venus turned direct. So we had Venus moving out of its retrograde cycle and then Mercury moving into its retrograde cycle. And of course, typically there are 3 Mercury retrogrades per year, and each one is about 3 weeks per time. And then, of course, on top of that, we have, the shadow of Mercury retrograde, which a lot of people have said, well, what's the shadow? How long does that last for? I'd say probably about 7 to 10 days before and 7 to 10 days after. So basically, the whole year is Mercury retrograde, if you really think about it like that. But really, it is in effect when it is on one of your planets, or it's forming an aspect to one of your natal planets. So, for example, this Mercury cycle, let's see here. So, December 1st, Mercury will be at 29 degrees Scorpio. And if you happen to be born, say your sun sign is the very end of Taurus or Leo or Aquarius, then this Mercury retrograde cycle will be affecting you, especially when it moves into Scorpio. So it just depends on where these planetary energies, how they sit or how they affect your natal planets. And if you don't know where your natal planets are, go to my website, theastrologer.com/chartwheel, and get a free chart wheel. And then each week you can follow along and see how the weekly or the monthly influences, planetary influences, are affecting you. It's extremely insightful, because sometimes with the Mercury retrograde, it's like, oh, did we just have a Mercury retrograde? I didn't even notice. And then other times it's like, oh my gosh, it must be a Mercury retrograde. It couldn't be anything else but. So it just depends on how these influences affect your natal charts at the time, natal planets at the time you were born. Now, continuing with December, as I was before the break, I was just talking about the new moon in Sagittarius, what we can expect, and if you are a fire sign, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, this is great news for you around new beginnings. And then on December 12th, we have the continuation of this Mercury retrograde cycle, but Mercury will not be retrograde on December 12th, and it moves back into Sagittarius to complete the cycle of the Mercury in Sagittarius influence for this year. So just remember that Mercury is planet of the mind. It's in Sagittarius, which is the sign of the philosopher, and it turned retrograde, which means the energy's turned backwards or inwards, or something from the past has reappeared. So it turned retrograde November 16th at 13 degrees and back into Scorpio December 1st. So when Mercury is in Sagittarius, this is all about, broadening your worldview, exploring a variety of subjects, in some ways being a little bit of a know-all, in a good way, I guess. But we need to be careful with this energy of not putting our foot in our mouth before we really think through what it is we are saying or talking about. But really, there's an urge to sort of expose ourselves to new ideas and perspectives, particularly of a philosophical nature. And, many of us throughout December might be asking, especially the second half when Mercury is direct in Sagittarius, looking at life's big questions and navel-gazing in some way, and what does it all mean, especially because we're at the end, towards the end of the year, and a lot of us are thinking through about our New Year's resolutions and, what's the best approach for next year and how does that affect us. So when Mercury is in Sagittarius throughout December, details, facts, figures, they definitely go out the window. So we're making decisions based on intuition rather than logic or any sort of analysis with this influence. So it's a great time to think about the future, not so much about figuring out the steps on how to get there, but that planning practicality will come later. This is more about optimistic thinking and faith in positive outcomes, really is around this influence. And many of us might be a great storyteller now when Mercury's in Sagittarius. But of course, many of us might be making broad, generalized statements, not being able to back anything up that we say with any sort of hard evidence. And also it's important that we're not dogmatic with this influence and not arrogant about our views and our thoughts and think that ours is the only truth. So that's again, the shadow side of this influence. Now, on December 21st, we have the Sun moving into Capricorn, and that coincides with the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere and then the summer solstice in the southern hemisphere. So any place above the equator is considered the northern hemisphere. So while the Sun's in Capricorn, where it will be all the way through, let me take a look here, all the way through January 20th this year. So Sun in Capricorn, it takes on a serious tone. And especially because we have like a lot of sort of serious energies coming up. I'm jumping ahead of myself here, but January 5th, there's a solar eclipse in Capricorn, which means the Sun and Moon are together in Capricorn. So when the Sun moves into Capricorn on December 21st, this is sort of like the energy building towards the solar eclipse in Capricorn on the 5th of January. So, usually with this influence of Capricorn, many of us are driven to succeed. We're working long and hard hours. We're thinking about the long-term future. And so it's sort of like we're neglecting maybe the personal side of our lives. So we need to find a balance with this, because also with the solstice, which I'll talk about in just a minute, The solstice represents a new beginning or a new cycle. It's basically so close to the end of the calendar year that it's all about new beginnings. So that's one way to look at this, the December solstice, regardless of where you are in the world. So with the sun in Capricorn and then, of course, the solar eclipse, January 5th, it's very much about taking care of our responsibilities. So it's like getting organised and improving the functionality of systems and structures of our life is a good way to use this energy. And so, any sort of daunting task could be tackled, at this time when the sun moves into Capricorn. Although, the thing is, it's like people are not really thinking about work and long-term plans around career and professional life. It's more about home and family at this time. And, it's sort of like you've got to take everything into consideration, not just focus on one thing or another. But it's like it's good to think about the solstice on December 21st as, the start of a new cycle, the start of a new year is coming up. So what do we want for 2019 and beyond? And, the shadow side of Sun in Capricorn is very much about having patience and perseverance and not feeling melancholy because we don't have what we want now. We have to work towards what we want. And if you think about the symbol of Capricorn, it's the mountain goat. Well, actually, it's the sea goat. But to make it easier, let's think of the mountain goat. So the mountain goat is sort of like one foot in front of the other till they get to the top of the mountain. So that's what symbolizes this energy of Capricorn. Or breaking, your long-term goals down into smaller steps and, just putting one foot in front of the other. So, one thing to remember with this energy of the sun moving into Capricorn and then, of course, the solar eclipse in Capricorn is very much about that any sort of accomplishment starts with a humble beginning or one baby step or one foot in front of the other. So the sun in Capricorn coincides with the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere, and the winter solstice is when the sun rises and sets the greatest southern distance from the equator. So this also marks in the northern hemisphere the shortest day of the year and the longest night. I had to think through that then, forgetting which hemisphere I was in. So the winter solstice marks the official beginning of the winter season, and then of course in the southern hemisphere the opposite is true. It's a time where it marks the longest day of the year and the shortest night. So the winter solstice, if you think about it, it's a time of hibernation because, the nights are long and the days are short. And so it's a time when we go into hibernation and we're inside typically. And so that's why, this time of year is associated with the Festival of Light type of celebrations, which of course honor the dark of the year and express, and what it really does is it expresses the faith in the return of the light and then the upcoming growing season. Because, way back when many of us were farmers, we didn't just go to the store to buy our food. We had to grow our own food, and we did that based off the seasons. The seasons really helped with nurturing ourselves. So there are a lot of holidays that are celebrated near the winter solstice, Hanukkah, Christmas, etc. So, a lot of cultures celebrate at this time of year, the closing at the end of the year. And winter time is a time for hibernation, rest, introspection, meditation, home cooking, recovery, sleep, study, that type of thing. So, and a lot of family-focused activities too. So with the holiday season near the solstice, the end of the year, it's actually quite fitting. So the winter solstice, it also signals the passage of a cycle. So it's a time, that's why people do their New Year's resolutions, because it's like, it's not just looking forward, but also looking back. And what did we accomplish during 2018, and what do we hope to achieve in 2019? So that's really sort of, as we're winding down, we're getting closer to the end of the year, and so we're starting to think things through about what it is that we want. So December 22nd, the day after the solstice and the sun moving into Capricorn, we have a full moon, and that will be in Cancer. So that really wraps or ties in the family focus, because Cancer is a sign of family. So it's like during this Cancer full moon on the 22nd, we can develop a warmer, more loving spirit in our home, as well as think about the balance of our professional lives outside of the home. So the full moon will bring to many of us a time to really find that balance. Now, if you are a cardinal sign and you're born at the very beginning of a cardinal sign, this is very, very appropriate for you, and the cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So this full moon will really heighten the awareness of finding a balance between private and professional life. And then December 31st, we have action warrior planet Mars moving into one of its favorite signs of Aries. And so Mars will be in Aries December 31st all the way through February 14th. So this is a really can-do, fearless, bold, brave energy. So many of us will be starting off 2019 with this really great, high-powered, high-charged energy and influence, especially if you are a fire sign, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. It's like you're rushing where no one else will go, and it's like a need to be first because you're in a hurry, you're impatient, moving at high rates of speed, loving the thrill of risky adventures, that type of thing, because of this real adrenaline-charged energy. So it's very much about forget the details and just charge ahead, charge forward, and maybe crash into something as you're doing it, because there's no time to really think through any sort of or take any sort of analysis. So just know that the energy at the very end of the year, charging into 2019, is bold warrior Mars moving into its favorite sign of Aries. The other favorite sign, of course, is Scorpio. But they're two completely different energies, Mars in Aries and Mars in Scorpio. They don't seem to have very much in common, those two signs, except Mars. So Mars is a very passionate energy. It's a very it's just a physical exertion is when I think of Mars in Aries. And so, of course, exercise will be a must. So if you have any sort of New Year's resolutions that involve health and well-being, it's a great energy to make those types of resolutions under, because we need that physical outlet and mental energy to keep ourselves in good shape. Also, with Mars in Aries at the end of the year through February 14th, it's a very competitive energy as well. So any sort of sports or team sports or even individual sports will be very appealing. But of course, the shadow side of Mars in Aries is very much about temper tantrums, which could create some problems because, many of us are quick to anger and maybe lash out before we even think. But the good news is that, we don't stay angry for very long under this influence. So it's more about the heat of the moment. Okay, now I'm going to move on to your monthly forecast for December right after the break, so stay tuned.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
Hi, this is recording artist and composer Yuval Ran, inviting you to a voyage through the chakras, a new double album of guided meditations to transform your life, a sublime musical medicine for nourishing inner peace and reaching to your higher virtues. Get it now at metamindfulnessmusic.com, METTA mindfulnessmusic.com.
I can't believe he found them.
He seems sorry.
We very clearly told him not to look up there.
I'm honestly impressed that he was able to do it.
Right? But did he balance on that big chair?
Yeah, I mean, I guess he'll just know what his gifts are this year.
I really thought we had hidden them well.
If they can find their presents, they can find a gun.
911, what is your emergency?
Every day, 8 kids and teens are unintentionally killed or injured by loaded and unlocked guns. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and End Family Fire.
Hi there, and welcome back to the Astrology Show. I am your host and astrologer Kelly Fox, talking about the planets in December. And I'm now going to give you your sign forecast, but in honor of Mercury retrograde, I'm going to go in reverse, because sometimes I feel like I'm rushing through the very end of the signs when I'm running out of time. So if you are a Pisces, who I'm going to start with, what might be good for you in December? And I'm thinking about Venus arriving in your travel zone on the 2nd when it moves into Scorpio. I'm sure you might love nothing more than to jet off somewhere exotic for the holidays. And if that's not possible because, you know, we are human after all, you might want to celebrate in a very different way to usual this year. And so maybe inventing new family traditions or blending different cultures in a meaningful way. But in some way incorporate something very different to what you usually do. And with the new moon on December 7th, it occurs or it falls in your ambitions and career zone. So, and this energy persists all the way through the middle of December. So there's a lot of work to be done, but you can make a lot of progress in your career if you can handle the pace. And then on the 20th, which I'm going to say to every sign, on the 20th there's a very, very exciting fire trine between the Sun and Uranus. And so this promises for you, Pisces, to be lucrative in regard to rewards and recognition of some kind. So hard work will pay off with this influence. And then with the solstice on the 21st, this happens in your social zone. And so that's when you sort of start to unwind and relax and enjoy the holidays, most certainly in the company of friends. Will be very important to you at that time. And then with warrior planet Mars shifting into your finance zone all the way through February, just be careful that you're not spending money as quickly as what you make. If you are an Aquarian, you're pretty firmly in work mode through a lot of December. And then with Venus shifting into your career zone, and then Mercury turning direct on the 6th, and then we have the new moon on the 6th as well, there could be some last-minute progress you make at work in particular during December. So when others are winding down for the holidays, that's when you're sort of winding up. Winding up. Yeah, hopefully that means ramping up. I was thinking sometimes in Australia and the US, the terminology, it's the same, but it has a different meaning. And then on the new moon, December 7th for you, Aquarius, that you might think it's time to sort of think about approaching the festivities. And then middle of December is a great time for networking for you, still thinking about work, but also incorporating sort of social personal life with any sort of work activities. And then the solstice on the 21st, it occurs in your spiritual zone. So this is a time when you can sort of take a little bit of downtime around that solstice on the 21st. So the holiday period itself looks set to be busy but friendly, and quite a few happy days for you that you can anticipate. So just be careful, just sort of hone in those political speeches, though, during the holiday season. People just want some time off. And then as 2019 will get closer, make a resolution to stretch your mind next year, 2019, which will be music to your ears, of course, because that's what Aquarius is all about. Capricorn, if you are a Capricorn, you're all about community and friendship in December, because, you know, Venus arriving in your social zone, so, you know, you'll enjoy anything which involves working with other people to make a difference. And then, of course, once Mercury turns direct in the same zone on December 6th, you could really use your talents to help a good cause with any sort of communication or marketing. And it's really important in December that you do something worthwhile with your time, and that's around just the new moon on December 7th. So that's an excellent time for any sort of charity work or group projects within the community. And, of course, this time of year is very important that we do that. We sort of all band together, but Capricorn more so. So it's like, you know, your most unselfish qualities are on display through mid-December. And many people are likely to feel very inspired by your example. And especially with that incredible inspirational fire trine on December 20th, it will help you motivate and encourage other people in so many ways. And then, of course, you know, your birthday month starts December 21st, Sun in Capricorn, coinciding with the solstice. And so it's a time and the full moon, of course, in your opposite sign. So it's a time to really get close to your family and the people that you really, really care about. And then we've got Mars shifting into your family zone. So be careful at the end of the year with anger around any sort of family members. It might be good to sort of use that energy to make some sort of changes to the home, or a quick redecorate, or new cushion covers might do the trick with that Mars December 31st through February 14th. Tempers could flare. Sagittarius, for you in December, early December is a brief period of rest and retreat for you. Even if you're busy in real life, create time and space in your head so that you can meditate and recharge and sort of ramp up for this holiday season, because it's going to be all cylinders firing at the very end of the year through January, when Mars moves into Aries for you. So it's sort of like at the beginning of the month, sort of see if you can sort of get yourself ready for the charge. And then love planet Venus shifts into your spiritual zone December 2nd. So it's important you have some sort of spiritual connection, which is further underlined when Mercury turns direct in your spiritual zone as well on the 6th, same day as a new moon in your own sign. So it signals a change of pace. So it's like you can enjoy being the center of attention around the time of the new moon in your sign. But really, just be careful, because at that same time there's a confusing Mars-Neptune conjunction, which will highlight family issues. So don't be surprised if things come up from the surface. And then, of course, on the 20th, there's a fantastic fire trine between the Sun in Sagittarius and Uranus in Aries. So there's a lot of surprises and promises and unexpected delights around this time, mid to late December. And then, of course, as 2019 approaches, you want to explore, you know, your more creative side, because Mars will be in your fun zone on New Year's Eve all the way through February 14th. So if you're thinking about taking up a new creative hobby or pastime, that's a great use of the energy of Mars, the action planet Mars. Scorpio, December is definitely your time to shine, because love planet Venus arrives in your own sign on the 2nd, and this time it's not retrograde. So you'll be feeling much more sociable and maybe gregarious than usual, just in time for the party season. And then, of course, once Mercury, planet of communication, turns direct in your sign on December 6th, the communication issues that you've had previous the past couple of months or past month will just get a whole lot easier. And don't be surprised if you rediscover your talkative side as well. So early December is a great time for making new friends and becoming closer to work colleagues as well. The new moon on the 7th, December 7th, falls in your money zone. So look out for any new earning opportunities around this time. But be very careful as well with that confusing Mars-Neptune conjunction around December 7th. So it occurs in your risk zone, so don't take any chances with investing or taking any sort of risk with your finances at that time. And then, of course, when Mercury does re-enter your finance zone on the 12th, you'll be able to see things much more clearly. And then the winter solstice, that highlights a busy few days for you with lots of errands and entertaining and socialising. But of course, it's the festive season, so of course. And then, so when Mars changes sign, December 31st, just in time for New Year's Eve, all cylinders are firing. Libra, so as luxury-loving Venus, your ruling planet, arrives in your money zone December 2nd, it's going to be hard to resist splashing out during this festive time of year, but be very careful with that, not to overspend. But fortunately, Mercury does turn direct in your organisation zone on December 6th. So if you are planning to spend heavily, at least you should be able to work out a suitable budget or a way to pay off any sort of debt that you may incur. And then getting back in touch with old friends is a key issue around the new moon on December 7th. And that's even where relationships have been difficult. There's sort of like a push or help from the cosmos when it comes to communication or speaking to how you feel. So, the magical fire trine between the Sun and Uranus on December 20th promises a joyful reward. And there's also some love links here too. Maybe if you're single, getting back in touch with an old flame. Who knows? And then there's a friendly and sociable vibe that continues throughout the remainder of the year. If you are a Virgo, good communication skills are the key to your success, in early December. And especially once charming Venus arrives in your communication zone on the 2nd. And then, of course, Mercury turns direct there as well on the 6th, helping you to get your message across and feeling less tongue-tied in awkward situations. But keep talking from the heart and you'll find that people will listen. And then the new moon, December 7th, there could be some tension between you and someone else, partner, family member. There could be some confusion there as well. It's really important that you don't leap to conclusions and not have confusion. So, and then once Mercury, your ruling planet, does re-enter your family zone on the December 12th, it could be easier to avoid any sort of misunderstandings at this time. And then the Sun-Uranus trine on December 20th opens up a world of positivity and open-mindedness. And then, of course, the New Year's Eve, fiery Mars shifts into your passion zone, and need I say more for 2019. Leo, it's family first in December, and because Venus arrives in your family zone on the 2nd. Now, Venus is the planet of love. So this is a great time to give your family a priority during this festive season. And, of course, communication gets easier as well when Mercury turns direct there on the 6th. And then on the 7th, it might be good to sort of not jump to any sort of conclusion, any type of conclusions, because there's some confusion there as well. There's a fantastic fire trine, December 20th, So it will help you step out of your comfort zone and reap the rewards. And then Mars will arrive in your travel zone New Year's Eve. So make some travel plans at or for the end of the year. If you're a Cancer, it looks like you're getting into the festive spirit early, and that's especially once love planet Venus arrives in your party zone. And then Mercury turns direct there as well. So this is a good time to sort of reach out to others, make new friends, but be careful of too much idealism around December 7th and confusion around any sort of ideals. And then we've got the December 21st and then the 22nd. It's definitely a family time. Full moon in your own sign on the 22nd. And then Mars arrives in your career zone, ready to start 2019, feeling quite ambitious. Gemini, for you, so as the holiday season gets underway, you might be really thinking through work and career and professional life. Venus arrives in your everyday work zone, so you're not quite ready to wind down for the holidays at that time. So it's more like when Mercury turns direct in the same zone, things at work sort of flow a lot more easily than what they have previously done before. It's a good time to focus on your health throughout December, even though, yes, it sort of goes against what this season is all about. And then the new moon on December 7th falls in your love zone. So this is, if you're single, this is new cycles, new beginnings. Real quick, if you are a Taurus, it looks like a sweet and romantic start to December for you. And if you are an Aries, lots of energy at the beginning and the end of December. So what's not to love about that? Anyway, that's it from me. This is the Astrology Show. I am your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox, wishing you all the best for the week. And be sure to tune in next week.